Everyone, Mike, and I'm back with my 1977 Chevrolet Corvette, and today we're going to replace the mechanical fuel pump. The tools that you'll need for this job are going to be listed below. I'm not going to waste a lot of time explaining that right now, but I will do a physical brief overview just so you can get an idea. Well, of course, first and foremost, you want to pick up your fuel pump. This is a direct replacement for an OEM. It's got all three ports, and you will need to remove the 90-degree from the old fuel pump. I got this model, this AirTex model on Zip Corvette. Comes with you'll have to also buy separate, the two rubber fuel lines, the bolts, the plate gasket, and then this pump gasket comes with the pump itself along with great instructions. AirTex is a reputable brand. Those hoses replace the rubber lines right there and right there, and they go down to your fuel pump. Okay, so you've got your car in the garage, you're ready to start your project. First thing, jack it up. Don't put it on stands because you're going to want to remove your passenger tire. And the reason for this is, I'm going to explain it in the steps later on, is it allows easy access to the pump bolts. A lot of people say they need tiny hands. Let's just see if we can get this done because my hands are not that small. Okay, so I've jacked up the car. I've got two stands for a backup here, and I've got my jack. Next thing you want is to put your car's timing at top dead center. So we're going to go to the crank pulley and take don't waste all the energy and try to start your car until it gets to top dead center. Don't even bother. Just take a ratchet, a socket for that on the crank pulley, and then, or the harmonic balancer, and then easy take an extension like this for leverage, and just it very little force, and the engine's going to go clockwise until you see the top dead center line meet at the zero. Okay? Just to show you, boom. All right. A general overview of the tools that I have here. Line wrench, regular wrench, extension. You're going to want these extensions, these really long extensions, because they're going to be able to get through to the pump bolts, of which one of them you can see right there. If you look straight next to the orange, the other one, you push past these rubber hoses, you'll hit the bolt easy, no problem. This will make life a lot easier. You're gonna want some of these bolts to plug the rubber fuel lines because your fuel tank will start gravity draining. Not a big deal, just have something to catch it. Okay, some grease, flat tip screwdriver for the clamps if you have the original. So let's talk about some symptoms. My fuel pump did not stop working. I was very fortunate. There was a little oil dripping in the bottom of it, which meant the gasket was going bad. That mates against the engine. So I just decided, since it's a 1977 and it is the original fuel pump, to replace it altogether before the diaphragm goes bad. It's not an expensive part, and it's 2018, so it's worth the maintenance. Okay, so lay down some kind of absorbent mat. It'll help save you when you release those fuel lines. After you get your car lifted, you're at top dead center, come underneath and you've removed the tire, come underneath and take your line wrench, your 5/8 line wrench, push this shielding back, and that's a little oil right there. That's part of the reason that I'm removing it. And take that off. If you do not use a line wrench, you will strip that nut and it will be a nightmare. So do not attempt without a line wrench. Go to your auto parts store, get a line wrench, no problem. Okay, before you remove that, it might be worth removing this fuel line. Okay, so the one closest to the aft, right here, notice I've plugged it with a bolt and secured that clamp. That's very temporary, just so that I can at least get the rest of this done. That is going to be a big issue, leaking everywhere once you release it. So have this mat, have a container to catch the extra fuel, plug it with a bolt, secure that clamp, go ahead and bust this nut and release. This goes up to the carburetor. Okay, only a little fuel is going to come out of that, just enough to clear the line. And then next we are going to release this line. One is the vent line, one is the supply line to the tank. Or the return line, one is the supply line, rather. All right, let's get that done. All right, so I've removed the return line and the remainder of the fuel that was in the pump has gone down into my little container. And note that because it is just the return line, not much fuel. So I can leave that uncapped so I can replace the hose up on top of the frame. So I released the return line and I'm going to replace it. Here, as you can see, is the old return line. Always worth replacing rubber lines when you're in a job. Definitely deteriorated over the years. And it used these terrible little worm gut clamps. Not that they're much better, but more reliable. The new stuff comes with spring clamps. All right, so the next annoyingly, not really painful job, just annoying, that I'm going to do is replace this new segment of the fuel line so that I can get that out of the way. All right, and that is the supply line. So you got the gravity working against you. All right, now that I've got the supply line out of the way, boy, that was a nasty job. Nasty. Yep. It's time to get to the fuel pump bolts. All right, so again, let me use the flashlight for you. Notice from afar, I have a nice opening, little crack here. I'm going to access that pump bolt. Utilizing just like that. And then you'll do the other side. 1 minute I got both bolts out. Before you pull the pump, you want to note the position of the pump arm in there. That will indicate the push rod position. You see it? It looks like it's down. Good. So let's get this pump out of here. Looks like the other bolt is just barely clinging on. All right, got it out. And just like that, this nasty fuel pump is out. Do a quick comparison. Good. All right, now we got to remove this 90-degree fitting. All right, we're gonna take a quick peek at the push arm. All right, we're gonna take a quick peek at the push pin inside there. That is what you have to keep up before we can get in the new one. See it? The silver thing? All right, now some prep work. I'm gonna take my grease gun and grease up the internal parts of the new pump to ensure it does not fail prematurely. All right, now we need to take some plumber's tape or sealant tape, add some back to our 90-degree fitting, and get that mounted. All right, now that I've got the 90-degree piece fit and I got some grease, the next plan is to, as you can see, I just removed these two 7/16 bolts from the backing plate. That's all that holds it on. They're actually very small. And as soon as I remove that plate, it's going to expose the push rod so that I can pull that out, put some grease on it, and put it back in there and keep it up. In the process, I'm also going to replace the gasket behind that and then the gasket in front of it for the pump. And then it's going in. All right, here's a picture of the push rod. Slides right out, no problem. I've cleaned up this backing plate so that the mating surfaces are ready for the gasket. And before we do that, we want to make sure that the inside of this housing is nice and clean. So we're going to take some time and clean that up. All right, so one way to keep this push rod up into the engine so that the arm of the pump can be underneath the push rod is to get some grease on it to keep the pin from sliding out. Okay? as you can see, the pin is staying up in place now, and I can get my pump down. So right now what I'm going to do is just apply a very thin coat of this maximum oil resistance ultra black to the gasket plate. Apply the gasket to that, and then I'm going to do the same for this gasket on the fuel pump. Alright, now that I have the plate back on, it's time to get the pump mounted. Alright, with the new pump in place and the bolts tightened to 25 foot-pounds, it is time to connect this line first, then the return line, then lastly the messy supply line. And that's gonna have to be real quick because I don't want to mess it up. And forgive me everyone, this is not a prime show car, but it is pretty on the outside anyway. So there is flaws. Last but not least, have a fire extinguisher. Start the car. Inspect for leaks, both at the replaced line and at the pump. It wasn't too bad. I would say the worst part was just pulling that supply line that comes from the tank and replacing that rubber hose, just because gas kind of gets everywhere. But lay down an absorbent mat, you'll be all right. And remember, check below for the tools, the recommended tools. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.